Hey, everybody, welcome to the Value Add Podcast. I'm your host, EQ. And each episode, what we do is we try to bring you information, inspiration, and insights, things that can add value to your everyday so that you can be well equipped on your journey to becoming your best self. And as you know, in true Value Add Podcast form, we bring you some dynamic guests. And my guest today is nothing short of dynamic. She is somebody that I am constantly inspired and impressed by. She is an amazing woman, a mother, a wife, business owner, coach, so many things. But I'm sure she can do a better job of introducing herself than I can. And so without further ado, I want you all to please welcome my guest, Ms. Anastarcia Palacious.
Thank you so much, Ethan. EQ, let me get it right, here on the Value Added Podcast. It is like such a pleasure to be with you. And I'll take the time now just to say hello to everyone that's listening, just wishing you all an amazing time in this podcast, but also just hoping that it will be for you what you need to add value to your life. As EQ mentioned, I have had the privilege of doing many things in a very short amount of time. But I think the greatest thing for me would be the results I produce in the world. And so whenever people have the opportunity to engage with me, my hope and thankfully what I've seen from my clients, whether they have taken an online course with me, or I have been a keynote speaker at their events, or I have been their individual coach, or I've moderated an event for them, or they've seen me on television as a TV host, the result I produce in the world is one I think that is a blessing, to call it my own, of one of inspiration, motivation, but also action. People take action after their interactions with me in a way that enables them to improve their lives. They find more confidence in themselves, they're more confident in the process and the journey, and then they get some tools that help them to navigate and manage whatever it is that they're going through. So it's a blessing to be able to create those type of results in the world, and I've seen my clients and my audiences truly flourish in business and in their personal lives as a result of the work that I do. So I think that's a blessing to do this type of work.
This is so cool. I mean, like I said, I've had the privilege to know you and watch you continue. I thought you were doing a lot when I first met you, but just to watch you continuously grow and evolve as a person, I think is just an incredible thing to watch. You just unpacked a lot of stuff just now as far as, with your clients and things like that. So why don't you give us a better appreciation for exactly what do you do?
Yeah, so I am multifaceted, but generally in this season, and I say this season because life is so beautiful in that you get to grow, right? And you get to shift, you get to pivot. And in this season, I have taken all of my years of communications training. I've been a speaker since I was 4 when I gave my first speech, and been in competitions where I was just able to be creative, tell stories and give speeches and recite poetry. And that led me to being on television for many years. And I just retired officially from Bahamas at Sunrise, which is the leading television show here in the Bahamas. It's been around the longest, last year. But in that process, before my retirement, I had started coaching. And so I coach mostly executives, but also the everyday person if they're interested, particularly persons who want to be entrepreneurs. I help them learn how to share stories, how to speak on stages, and then how to be camera confident, right? How to be confident so that you feel good about showing up, right? Even this message is going to come across to so many people because you took the opportunity to create it. But each of us have stories that are worth sharing, and each of us can inspire each other. But people feel afraid. And so my job is to give them the confidence to believe in themselves, and then the tools, because it sounds nice and fluffy to say, oh, you can do anything, but actual tools and techniques that help them to realize how to craft speeches, how to show up on camera, and to feel good about the message that they're going to leave in the world. So in the past 4 years, I think I've coached now maybe about 600 individuals from all around the world. People would join my class in Israel, and they would be on. It would be 4 a.m. their time, and it'd be 4 p.m. here in the Bahamas, and they would be on. And I've had the opportunity to work with people from Ghana and from Nigeria and just from all over the world, just helping them to craft messages that inspire and leave hope, and also let them heal by telling their truth.
Oh, I love you so much. You're such a dynamic and person of substance. Like I was going to say profound, but you're just so hearty for the soul. If that makes sense, you know.
I receive it.
All right, so I kind of want to take it back, right? Let's talk a bit. I want to know about childhood.
Okay.
I want to know about baby Star, little girl Star growing up, because I mean, I see you here, I know Carlos, and you have such a lovely family, but what was Star growing up? You said you wrote your first speech at 4, so this isn't something that just happened. So kind of give me an appreciation for childhood Star.
Yeah, so my mom called me Star since the day I was born. My full name is Anastarcia, but the nurses couldn't pronounce it, and my mom was frustrated by that, right? Because most people want to say Anastasia, and she's like, no, it's Anastarcia. You know what? Just call her Star. And I think we can be a bit prophetic in our words, and one of the things I tell people as a speaker is that you have to be so careful what you let come out of your mouth, right? Because you create your world with words, right? Words are powerful. That's why they call it spelling, right? That you declare, and it comes to pass. So I think she put that prophecy on me to kind of exist in this space where I loved acting and I loved reciting poetry, and I always loved to read. Not always. Let me back up. In the second grade, I actually could not read very well. I had a teacher named Miss Tucker, and she made me stand up one day in front of the class. You remember Miss Tucker, right?
Mary Star,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. And Miss Tucker saw me falling asleep in the class, and she was like, Anastarcia, you get up there and you read this book. And I couldn't do anything. I didn't know how to get the words out. And even though I'd been speaking for a long time, it's one thing to regurgitate or even to maybe write your own, but the ability to read someone else's words was a struggle for me. And I remember, leaving class that day, and I went to my dad and I said, I don't ever want to be in a position where I feel like I can't read again. Can you take me to the library? And he took me to Charles Hayward Library, and that began my love affair with books, right? And other people's thoughts and other people's experiences. And I think even as a child, for me, my imagination was, what other worlds can I create with words? Like, how can I play with words so that I'm going on a journey somewhere new? And I, as a kid, you wanted to dig a hole in the ground and go to China, right? Like random stuff. But how could I create this world in my mind? How can I say it with words? And I think I was always blessed with teachers who, because I distracted all the kids in their class talking all the time, decided to put my talking to good use. And so they sent me into poetry competitions and speech competitions. And so I was blessed that my gifting was such that people were aware of it, and I had the right people in my life who created pathways for me to explore it. So that by the time that I got to high school and I began to have an awareness of self, I already knew that this was something I wanted to do. I didn't see it as a gift yet. I still wanted to just be in rock, because that's where the real talented people are, right? Or I want to be able to sing. Not my gifting. And it wasn't until I got into my 20s that I realized, hold on, there's something here. That this is more than just something I do on the side. This is something that can help people. I can make a livelihood from this. And so if you're listening to this podcast now and you've not yet found the thing, I just kind of want you to go back and ask yourself what's always been there for you, right? Like, what have you always been good at? Because sometimes things come so naturally to us that we don't see it as a gifting. And it doesn't look like somebody else's gift, and so we don't see it that way. But it's been there all along. Like, everything we need has always been in us, and it's just a matter of us cultivating it, bringing it out, and showing up for ourselves more in the space to let that thing grow. So childhood Star was talkative. Childhood Star was blessed to have a great family, loved growing up with my sister and later on my little brother, and great parents who just would drive me to and from these meetings and to and from these poetry showcases and to and from the Regency Theater so that I could explore who I was. And later on, I got into the place where I could get my own set of coaching and kind of turn that into a business and what I do full time.
Interesting. Now, so as of right now, or at least while we're recording this, Anastarcia Palacious is a coach. Like, I'm just trying to figure out, because what I want to do, I mean, because I really think that I could kind of throw a dart at a board and I would land on something that you're excelling at today, right? So and so, like right now, what is Anastarcia?
I'm an entrepreneur,
okay.
And I would hate to limit myself in one sphere because I think that it diminishes all the parts of you that you have been, right? And so even before I got into coaching full time, I'd already owned my own marketing and public relations firm. I'm very proud of the work that I did with that firm. I still have clients that I work for now that I get their messages out and across various media for. I have done work as an influencer, and I still love to work with the right brands to create great messaging and get their products out there. But yes, I'm also a coach, right? And I help people with very specific things as it relates to storytelling, as it relates to speaking, as it relates to camera confidence. So I would hate to limit myself to one thing, because I'm just so much more than one particular label. And in any given season, that shifts. Like I have a project that I'm excited to launch later on in the year that has nothing to do, well, kind of, sort of, but nothing to do with coaching. But it's because I'm a creative and I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm always going to be into something different, you know?
Now,
so I'm an entrepreneur.
No, so I can totally relate. I can totally relate. I'll never forget my daughter, who's now 15. I started my first business leaving corporate Bahamas. I used to be at the bank, and I started my first business when I was 24, right? And, you know, fast forward 16 years, like I love entrepreneurship and business. It's one of my greatest passions. Something that I have done though, my daughter used to sell, when I started my first business, it was a mortgage brokerage, right? And, you know, I didn't want to be the world's greatest mortgage broker. I didn't have a passion for mortgage brokerage. It was easy. It was simply the easiest thing for me to transition into leaving the bank, because I was a loan officer at the bank. I was very good at it. I loved helping people. And it's like, okay, well, I can do that. That's the easiest thing for me to transition into. Fast forward, I ran that business for maybe about 5 years, 6 years before I transitioned into fitness. And that was really inspired by my own fitness journey. You know, I lost 110 pounds and, you know, totally transformed my body and my life. And it was like, okay, wow, I need to figure out how I can get paid to do this all the time. And so I dissolved the mortgage brokerage, went into fitness, started doing individual fitness programming and then corporate wellness programming for companies. That was awesome. And then I started my media company as sort of a internal operation to help my brand and my wife's brand, you know, so we could have this media machine to churn out content for us. And then of course people were like, hey, you know, who's doing your stuff? And that kind of turned into a thing. And then I realized, hold on, wait, I actually like this a lot more than corporate wellness programming, right? But the thing that I realized, and I think I had an aha moment where you, like something that you said earlier where, you know, you're kind of like, hold on, wait, there may be something here. Because honestly, the common denominator, the underlying theme was that I really like to help people. I really like to add value. And this is why we're here now at the Value Add Podcast. And, you know, that's why I love business and entrepreneurship. That's why I love, you know, personal and professional development. But I love how you articulated it when I asked you, well, you know, you're doing so many things. What do you do? Because that was something, or that honestly is something that I struggled with, right? I was like, you know, I don't want to be perceived as that guy. What are you doing? 1 minute he doing this and 1 minute he doing that. So how do you, or how have you been able to not get hung up on Anastarcia's doing so many different things that it doesn't get lost in the market, or the market isn't confused? Because when I think of you, I think of, you know, anything to do with communication. I think of, you know, speaking, hosting, like you said. But how do you navigate in that space or in the market so that the market isn't confused with what Anastarcia is doing?
Yeah. So I think the market may be confused, right? But I'm also at a place where, and this will be a multifaceted answer because I'm a multifaceted person, and I think so many of us are. And I've had to learn that I can't rely on people's perception to drive me in what I do, right? Because seasons change. I'm a Christian, and for me, you know, the greatest thing God said was that he made me in his image. And God was a creator. Like he didn't just say, I'm going to separate the sky and then that'll be it. Or, you know what, I made some dogs, that's going to be it for me. Like, no, like he created multiple things, and then he went in depth on how the plants were different. And if you look, like there's a particular type of tree, it grows in South America. I think it's, I'm going to mistake the name right now, but you know, there's a particular type of tree, and I'll send it back to you later, so maybe you can put an edit over the podcast if somebody's watching it, so you can label it.
Right.
And each of the individual insects that have to go into this tree in order to ferment it have to be different. Like the holes in the tree only fit the size of one particular animal, right?
Wow.
And so it's like, if nature could be that way, then why can't I, right? So I am multifaceted. You did call my common denominator communications, and so for me, many years ago, I remember writing my mission statement. I am building the nation through communication, and that's what I do, right?
That.
Like I am building a nation of people who believe in themselves, who feel, their passion and desires to carry forth, who listen to me and feel joy and question themselves, well, could I do this or could I do that, or what makes me happy? And I think that that is a beautiful space to be in. And that happens when I'm on TV hosting a show. It happens if I'm the MC for your event and I'm engaging your audience. It happens if I'm the keynote speaker and I'm there specifically to transform your audience in a particular way. It happens if you're in a retreat with me. It happens if you are in one-on-one coaching with me. It happens in my group courses, right? All of it is communication. All of it is sharing of ideas. All of it is opening your mind to who you can be and what God has called you to, in the understanding that if each of us reaches one, then the world is a better place. So I'm not going to be limited by a title. I am a communicator, and I can do many things in communication. And if you would like me to work with you and figure out, well, how can I just get that energy with me? Then we'll work together and we'll figure out what's the best product that I offer that works for you. But I'm not limited by a title. And I would encourage people to not be. Now you might be. You might be like, what, I always love math. I was always going to be an accountant.
Right.
I will be an accountant till I die. And if that's your thing, by all means, be an accountant and be great. But if you're a creative, then be a creative. Today you may want to do flowers. Tomorrow you may want to do events. Tomorrow you may want to, get into fitness, right? It depends on how you evolve and what's worked for you and how, like you said, Ethan, you want to help others. Because that's what we're called here to do, to be a team on this earth with each of us playing our role and helping the person next to us both bring out the best in them and then supply where they fall short. That's all we're called to do.
What my boy say? That's powerful. No, man. That's incredible. Now you said a couple of things, right? And so I kind of want to ask you a direct question, because, and the question is, how do you define success? Well, it's a two-part question. One, would you say that you're successful? And then two, how you define success?
Yeah. So this is a question I'm currently contemplating. And you know what? My answer for it might have been different a couple of years ago, and it may be different in a couple of years to come. But right now, I told my husband this was a really big goal for me coming into 2023, that I wanted to stop defining success by money. I think a lot of us are consumed by wealth, and you and I are people of color. We are descendants of slaves, and there is, for the first time, I think, in our world, the potential for us to do really well financially because there are more doors open. There's more room for creative spaces and to make wealth and to grow wealth. And I think because of that, many of us are just focused on like how we can get more of this money because that's the thing we've always lacked as a people for the most part, right? Especially in comparison to other races. And so for me, I didn't even realize how much of my life was driven by money. I've come from very humble means, and I think I would wear that as a banner. But on the backside of that was the notion and the idea that, well, I ain't living my turn in humble means. Like, like I have to make it. And to make it was to have a lot of money.
Right.
And so I think that's the very traditional way of measuring success. What does your bank account look like at the end of the day? Because that's what success is for most of us. And I do not want to diminish that. Money is important. Money helps to give you options. And money helps to save your life in many instances.
Right.
So, like, let's make it very clear that you ought to be doing things that don't leave you in the poorhouse. Simultaneously, though, I feel like if we only focus on what is making me money, we miss a great opportunity to impact lives and then to put ourselves in a position where money can actually come to us. And so I said to my husband at the end of 2022, my goal for 2023 is to be at the place where I see the value I bring to people's lives as my currency. And so what I started to do intentionally, every time I would, offer a course and somebody would have great feedback, I started to save those notes for myself so I could remember on my down days or on the days when the money is not flowing the way that I would like it to, like, wow, look at the impact I've made in this person's life, right? The people who claim to be inspired by me and they're doing well. I have this amazing young girl. She graduates college this year, and I met her when she was in high school. And just keeping abreast of her journey and the way that she, is just doing so well.
Right.
And she sends me her report cards. I don't really ask for them, but she feels that connected to me because of the time I spoke to her in high school. To see her thrive, that's value for me. That's success for me, right? And so I think for me, I want to begin to measure success by impact rather than by increase in terms of my monetary capacity. And I believe fully that if we do more of the impact work, if we do more of the touching of lives, we'd be surprised what doors open for us, even from a financial perspective. So for me this year, success is, how am I impacting the room that I walk into? And did I leave it better than when I met it? Period. That's where I'm at this year. I don't know I could be in 2024.
No, but like you say, everything's in seasons, and this is the season that you're in. No, it's incredible because I agree with you. Like, as far as saying, so many of us measure success by money. You know, how much money do we have in our bank accounts, right? And you know, I also agree with you that money is still very important. Like money is very
Money's
important.
Make
But
it very clear.
when I define success, for me personally now, because I've been working with a couple of coaches, I have some mentors who are working with me to get me to that next level. And one of them said, you know, first of all, wealth isn't for you. The purpose of wealth is impact. You become wealthy so that you can have greater impact. Because sure, if I meet Anastarcia on the road and she and I are having a conversation one-on-one, she is going to leave me impactful. But if Anastarcia then has the resources to impact, you know, millions of people with that same voice, you know, that's impact, right? But of course it takes money to get there, right? Or resources. And so for me, I was able, you know, he challenged me. He said, listen, you know, I need you to, what is success to you? One sentence, one line. And it took me a while. It took me a while because I was like, oh, you know, there's so many different areas and this, that, and next. And so I've been able to define success for me as being able to live the quality of life that I want by doing what I want while having an impact on the world.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful.
And, you know, it was like, I surprised myself, right? Because he said, oh, you know, you want to be successful, what it is. And then, of course, you know, what does that look like, right? Because in order for me to live the lifestyle that I want, I need money. That's just, you know, I got a sexy young wife. She like things.
She thinks like
And so,
we don't play with
so
things,
you know,
huh?
but you know, just understanding, like you said, that money gives you options. It's a vehicle, right? It gives you options. It gives you certain freedom. It alleviates a lot of day-to-day stresses so that you can be more creative and step into your purpose and do more work, right? And so, you know, once you have that money thing settled, you know, then you can go on to other things, right? And so for me, that was how I define success. And the thing about success is that, you know, it's ongoing.
Yeah.
It's a journey, right? It isn't, I get this and then I'm successful. And I used to tell my fitness clients all the time, you know, like all of us in the same boat, right? All of us have bodies that we want to improve, right? Like you can never have the best body that you can ever have, because no matter how good your body is today, you can do things to make it better. You can get stronger. You can get faster. You can become more fit. Like there's so many different things that you can do. And as ever-evolving creatures, we should be ever-evolving. We should be constantly changing and pretty much upgrading, right? And so I just wanted to figure out from you, like, you know, how you define that. But listening to everything that you said, like, because that was the same thing with me, you know, we have these things, and, you know, he just challenged me. He said, give me a one-liner.
Yeah.
How do you define success in one line,
Yeah.
while still being able to encompass everything that you're saying? So I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
So now you're a parent, you're a mother, right? My question is what type of mother are you, but how do you parent from a standpoint of, you spend so much time coaching people? Do you ever find yourself coaching your kids?
Definitely.
And is that something that you do? Because I'm asking that because I have received criticism on the way that I parent from people who they're parents, but you know, it's just different because I train and I talk to my daughter. I coach my daughter. I say, listen, you know, this is what it is. From she was a baby, it wasn't no baby talk. It's like I talk to you like a little person that you are, right? And so, but a lot of my parenting style is based on not even the way that I was brought up, but the person that I want her to be, right? Because I'm still learning things. I'm deprogramming things that I was taught, certain limiting beliefs and things like that. And so, and I'm sharing this with her in real time, and I'm saying, okay, well, you know, you got 25 years. I have 25 years on you, so if you can get this information now that I just got, you know, 5 years ago, you're that much, right? And so I kind of parent her like that, right? Almost like a coach, right? or mentor. How do you, because you have two kids, right? How do you parent them?
Yeah, so Parenting is an interesting journey, and I don't think anyone can prepare you for it until you're in the space. And I think you want to do the best that you can, but the truth about parenting is that you won't know how successful you are until 20 years later, right? Like 20 years behind the product. So you're just doing the best you can with what you've got. I want to encourage parents to read. You don't have to take everything that somebody says, but it's good to be aware. And so I'm subscribed to several magazines. I read Parents Magazine. As pregnant women, we download an app called Baby Center, all of us, to see when the baby's a squash or when it's a grape or pumpkin, whatever they say, right? But those articles continue, and they send you updates, every week that your child was born. Oh, your child is 4 weeks today. Or your child is 4 years and 9 months today. And it says this is what should be happening now. And it's just a great way to see even from a general human perspective, is my child on track? Do I need to see the doctor about this? I shouldn't be alarmed about this. This is normal, right? And so I want to encourage parents to be aware. Now, not everything is going to apply to your child, and you do not have to be consumed again by the voices of others. But God has given you this gifting, and you've got some intuition. You know what worked for you. You know what didn't work for you. These little humans are going to have you and the person that you had this baby with. They're going to have your personalities combined. So you want to be aware of, what are some of my quirks? What are some of the things that I didn't do? What did they do? What didn't they do? So you're aware of this being that you've created. And then from there, you want to, I think, just make sure that you're doing the best that you can to see that child as a person, right? And so my little lady is her own person. She's not me, right? And she's not my husband. And one of my greatest things that I've had to work through, I recently became a certified transformational trainer. And in that program, I worked through identifying some of the lenses that I wear. How do I see the world, and why do I see it that way? And then for me, it was, okay, how do I not put this on her? Because she's not me, right? And so I can't assume that her journey is going to be like mine, because she's literally her own person. But from a coaching perspective, some of the tools and techniques that I use with myself and with my clients, I'm so happy that I know to give them to her and to my son so that they're working through things. So one of the simplest things I do with them is breathing. Like when my son is very frustrated, he's having a temper tantrum, he's 2, that's quite common. Okay, breathe for me. Let's come into harmony together. And I'm taking deep breaths with him. And I'm calming his breathing down, because until we're in a calm space, we can't react, right, in the right way, because we're all over the place. And so that's been a great technique that I taught her very early on, that she now does. So when she's about to get upset and she wants to throw something or she wants to yell at him, she knows to bring it down, so that she can think rationally and make the right choice. And I love seeing that in action now that she's 5, because I've been doing with her since she was 2, and just would look at me still screaming as I told her to breathe, right? But now you can make better choices. And that's something I didn't always have. And I recently, unfortunately, forgot to breathe. Somebody called me at the wrong time, at the wrong moment, when I was not feeling well, and my response was not what it should have been, right? Because I didn't take the time to breathe. And so I think it's just the simple techniques like that I've picked up on my learning journey as a coach that I get to give them. When they come to me with certain problems now, it's not me telling them what to do, but asking them enough questions so that they get to the answer, even at 5, right? And then helping them to figure out, does this answer work for me? Does this make sense? Does it not? With the understanding that they are 5 and 2. So their brain development is going to look different than mine, right? But it's about the process. It's about the thinking process, and how do you respond, and why are you responding that way, so that they can be the best versions of themselves, even at 5 and 2. And I love that I have these tools now. I really do. Because I'm so hopeful that for them, they won't have to go through some of the same things, because they know how to stop, how to breathe, and now how to respond based on what I think is the best decision in this moment.
Awesome. Now, so we've covered Anastarcia, the woman, because before everything, you are a woman, the business owner, the entrepreneur, the mother. Now, I want to get to this part because, and I know Carlos isn't here, but I want to talk about, because you have so much going on, right? I mean, there's so much that you're doing. How do you, if you do, how does your marriage work, or how does Carlos and your husband feel with you? Like, how does he fit into everything that you have going on as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a mother, and now you got to deal with this grown ass man too? Like, how do you handle, or where does he fit into, and how does he fit into all of this?
I love my husband, so I just want to make that very known how much I do, and I'm just really grateful for him, and I'm grateful that God brought us together in the season that He did. I think that we are very equally yoked. And I think we're very blessed to have that in each other, that we are really good friends. Like, that's
All right.
my best friend, period.
Let's put a pin in that. Now, you said equally yoked. What does that mean for those? Because I know, I grew up in prophecy, right? So I know what that means, kind of. But when you say that, for those who may not be familiar with that term, explain that. Let's explain that for them.
Well, there's the trivial things, right? So we met at a John Canoe parade because we were both One Family fans. One Family didn't have no fans 15 years ago. Everybody could be excited now because we went too straight. And for those listening from abroad, One Family is a John Canoe group. John Canoe is a big cultural celebration here in the Bahamas. And they are one of the younger kids on the block at only 30 years old. So the other groups are a lot older. And so Carlos and I were 15 years ago, just the two Lewin family fans in our section, and that's how our first interaction happened, right? So we have the simple things like that. He's a Laker, I'm a Laker. He's an Eagle, I'm an Eagle, Philadelphia Eagles, right? Like, so we just have these simple, fun things that we get to do together without rivalry. It sounds trivial, but it's a great source of coming together. So on a Sunday when it's football, the two of us rooting for the Eagles. We ain't pulling from each other, right?
Right.
When it's NBA season, the two of us pulling for the Lakers, even though they had a horrible season, we in that together. When John Canoe come, we shouting for the same team, right? And so it's so important to be on the same team. So that is not necessarily the definition of equally yoked from a religious space, but it shows you about the beauty of team, right? And so in so many other areas of your life, you have to ask yourself, are me and this person playing on the same team? If our kids have come to us with this thing, what is our solution, right? Like, do we have a divergent point of view? So, for example, I come from a family of, spare the rod and spoil the child. So they believe in spanking you, like you get hit.
Right.
His family don't believe in that. They believe in timeout. They believe in love. They believe in prayer, right? So we had to resolve that before we got together, and one of us had to be the one to give in. And in that instance, I had to be the one to say, okay, if you don't feel like this behavior is appropriate, then I will take the step back here. Are you willing to do the dance of somebody stepping back on some things and somebody stepping up on others, right? Because that's where the equal yoking comes in. I think the greatest thing about being equally yoked for us, and I believe this, I really do, is what does your spiritual life look like, right? Now, some people feel differently, and that may work for them, but for both of us, we are both Christian. We both take things to God in prayer. Our prayer life is an important part of our journey together every day. And so for us, that's something that I couldn't bend on, because God is too central to my being for me to not be with someone that feels the same way about him, right? And if you're going to love me like Christ loved the church, like, that need to be real for you. That can't just be a random saying. And I need to be able to only submit to somebody who could have that part of me covered, right? And so spirituality was big for us, because when things hit the fan, like a pandemic that you don't plan for, how are you dealing? How are you coping? And if you don't have that grounding in something, whatever that may be, and it's not together, then again, you find that you're not on the same team, right? Communication, how do you communicate? And who's willing to listen? And we've been together 15 years. I think we both pretty good communicators, and we still are growing in our communication of each other.
Right.
Just our ability to understand what you're saying, what you ain't saying. Because I know you're 15 years, so I know what that means. Like, what does that look mean? What does that tone mean? The ability to team up with our children when one feel like they could come to mommy and ask something, and then I say no, and then they go to daddy, and daddy's like, but your mommy said no, right? Like, we on the same team. So I think being equally yoked, you want to look at where are me and this person spiritually. What are our goals? Like, what do we want out of life? If you want to live in life with key, and somebody is very comfortable living life with key, for those from abroad, being a very high-end area in the Bahamas, but somebody is very content on staying in a space in the inner city, then that's a difference of yoking.
Yeah.
Because as somebody's pushing for one goal, someone is not going to be on that team.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's really important that people know what teamwork looks like, what give and take looks like. What are your core values? Because if I'm a person of integrity and my truth is my truth, and you want to do some stuff in business that ain't for me, then again, we're not on the same team, right? And so even how you pursue your business goals, what you think is right and wrong, and how you teach that to your children, all of those things come down to an equal yoking.
Interesting. So in you deciding, because, my wife and I are both business owners. I mean, I think listening to you, we grew up very differently for different reasons. And we have had to navigate certain elements, right? But when, with regards to you and your husband, when you say, okay, well, like, what is the process? You have an idea, like you said, depending on what season you're in, you may be doing something different. What level of involvement does he have in what gets rolled out? Like, is it a situation where you have this idea and then you say, hey, you know what, honey, this is what I'm thinking, or you kind of do it and you say, this is what I'm doing, or like what is that dynamic? Because I know from the husband perspective with a woman who is, I have a wife who is very driven, very ambitious. She wants to do a lot of stuff, and she is doing a lot of stuff. I know how I move, right? My question to you is, you doing a lot of stuff. At what point do you, I guess, involve him? Where is he in that process of you really fulfilling what it is that you want to fulfill based on the season?
Yeah, no, we are together every step of the way, and I think it's a beautiful thing. So even when I look at my journey as an entrepreneur, I tie it to his, right? Like, so he has a very successful company now. I named that company. I did all the branding for that company. I still help him make decisions about who's hired, who, like day-to-day things that are on his mind. We don't go to bed without talking about those things. He'll send me a text in the middle of the day and say, this is going on, what do you think, right? And so we're very, like, that's my partner, that's my ride or die, that's my friend, that's the person I know that's going to have my back. And so in his business, I've been very much involved from let me bounce this off of you. And it's the same for me. After I have an idea and a concept, the first person I go to is God, and it's in prayer. And it's like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. I'm going to write some things down. And then I come to him and I'm like, okay, this is my thoughts. And I'm blessed to be with him because he has done so well in business. He's a great strategist. He is very brilliant at taking a very big thing and breaking it into small steps and then organizing those steps for do this first, do this second, do this third. Did that happen? Ask these questions. Like, his mind is so brilliant. It's really one of my favorite things about him.
I wonder if my wife is talking to me like that.
I think she does.
I gotta ask her.
Yeah, man, ask her. But I think so. I feel so. But yeah, no. So he's. So I don't want to run anything without him because he's so smart. Like, even like you would pay to get his advice because he's so good at laying stuff out from a strategy perspective. And so for me, there's nothing I don't do that doesn't involve him. Every decision I make, because it's not me and him, it's one. Like, the two shall be one, and that's the real deal. I'll tell you, like, that's something I've had to continue to work on to believe myself, right? He's always said it to me, but it's been like an internal process for me to be like, no, we really are one. Like, I have to remember this, right? And so, yeah, there's nothing that I do that he doesn't know about, that we've not talked through, that we've not said, well, what if this happens or what if that happens? Okay. And for the most part, though, I just find that he's incredibly supportive. So I'm very blessed in that way, that he just believes in me and believes I have great capacity and great potential. And if I'm down for the cause and I feel like I have a great plan and it's going to work based on these things, then let's go ahead and do it.
Now, you said something that's very interesting, because something I say to my wife all the time, like, but how important is it to an individual's success, male, female, doesn't matter, to have somebody like your husband, to have somebody that you can't in your life that says, you know what, I believe in you, and if this is what you want to do, I support you. Like, how important is that to overall success for an individual to have that person, or that person in their life?
I think it's everything. Now, I will tell you that you can be very driven independently and you will have great success independently. So I never want to take away from those who are like, nobody ever fought for me, I fought for myself. By all means, you did that. Congratulations. But what you will find is you go further faster when you have someone in your corner, especially someone who has invested in themselves so that they get feedback from other people. We only know what we know, right? We're raised a certain way. We're trained to think a certain way. And you don't know what you don't know until somebody teaches you something. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know that, right? Like, you don't know that you didn't know until you learn that you didn't know it.
Right.
And so it's important to be with people who have different perspectives. And so that can be a partner. So in my case, my husband and I are blessed to have each other. But so much of his wisdom has come from the outside. It's come from the people that have mentored him. It's come from coaches that he's paid to teach him to think a certain way. It's come from the books that he's read that's opened his mind to certain things. And similarly, when I come to him and we're discussing an idea and he needs my input, my thought process has also been open and exposed to my own mentors, to my own coaches, to books that I've read, to accountability groups that I've been in, where I've heard ideas and I've been exposed to things. So you can go very far on your own. Yes, you can. I'm sure that if somebody was to Google some successful person, they'll find some self-made person who said they did it all themselves. By all means, I give that credit. But I find that you will go further faster if you have someone in your corner who is telling you some hard things. Because not everything's about support. Yes, girl, let's do this. You could do it. You could do it well. No, some things, I don't think that makes any sense. Have you thought about this? Right? Now, how you communicate to me, you got to come correct. Don't tell me random things like that because that hurt my feelings. Right? But like, you have to have people that will challenge you.
Right.
And so even if you're not in a relationship with that person and you're listening to this podcast, I want to encourage you to find mentors, right? Like, and a mentor is going to be different from a coach. A mentor will very much share with you their thought process, what they went through. They may give you feedback on what you're doing and talk about, again, themselves and how this worked for them. A coach, however, is designed to ask you questions that get you to think and come up with your own solutions, right? And most often you're going to pay that person because they've been trained in a skill set that allows you to come to your own conclusion. But both are critically important to your growth and development further, faster.
Awesome. You know, Anastarcia, we could like literally, I could sit here and talk to you all day. You are such a dynamic and multifaceted individual. It's inspiring, right? I think, and I mean, I don't need to ask you this question again, because the last time you and I sat down in a similar setting, I asked you, how do you balance it all? And you said something. So just give them that one thing as far as balance, because when I tell you I take that and I make that mine.
I receive. That's awesome. That makes me so happy.
Balance what? Anyway, so to somebody who says, well, you know, Anastarcia, how do you balance it all? Let's talk about your viewpoints on this notion of balancing.
Yeah, I don't do balance. I was not gifted with the art of being an acrobat, and so I don't try to juggle. I don't try to stand on tight wires. I believe in harmony. And I love music so much because it is harmony. It's multiple things happening at one time. And if you ever hear an orchestra, or we just talked about Junkanoo, there'll be, you know, a section where the brass is playing and the brass may go quiet and you hear the drums, or if there's a violin solo, but then the flutes come back in. Like, life is harmony, right? It is knowing that in this particular season, like right now, the season I'm in, and the reason I just feel so calm, and I was telling your wife earlier that I'm just pursuing this level of contentment, is because I'm in a season where my children are the most important thing to me right now. My children, my husband, like that family unit. I am so limited in my time with them being small, and my daughter is growing up and she got her own opinion and she concerned with friends. She want to do makeup now, like she's 5, right? But this is where she at.
Yeah.
My son is 2 and he's gonna be 3 soon and going to school, and it will be different. So in this season for me, my harmony, the biggest thing about my life right now is, can I enjoy time with these kids and just laugh together? Because this is going to pass. There was a season when I just wanted to build this business, like my PR and marketing firm, and it just, you know, hitting those targets, those financial targets, setting those up. That was the season, right? And so what comes in there, you know, you may fit hubby in, maybe, you know, but you focus on this, right? And then there was a season where it's just me and him, and we just love birds, and we in our house, and we just building this beautiful home together, and the kids weren't there yet, right? And so each of your seasons will shift. But you have to ask yourself, how am I playing in harmony? And it doesn't mean that in a particular season it's like a year. It could be this week, something is different. So this week, I really got to focus on some work. I'm going to be working, 12-hour days, right? But next week is my downtime, and I'm spending 3 hours in the office and 8 hours with you. So it just depends. But your life is going to be harmony. It's going to have ebbs and it's going to have flows. And you ought to be content with knowing that you are loved, that you are loving the people in your life as best you can while doing the thing that you love. And you're doing it in a way that allows you to feel joy and happiness and not stressed and pulled and anxiety and frustrated because you're trying to do it all at the same interval. It doesn't work that way. Not to be happy and joyous, right? And so find the harmony. Rather than trying to be in balance.
I did. Anastarcia, when I tell you I take that and I make that mine, you say, how you balance? I don't believe in balance, my boy. It's harmony.
Harmony,
you
it
know?
is.
But I literally took that and made that mine. All right, so, we are on the Value Add podcast. It is and this is a recent revelation that I had. You talked about realizing your gifts, right? And it isn't gift. I recognize that my purpose, right? Like I was always fluffy stuff talking about what your purpose is. I
Yeah.
know what my purpose is, make that damn money, right? But I do believe that I know for a fact that I have a passion for adding value to people and making a positive impact. And I was really inspired to do this podcast because I was like, you know what, this is what I'm here for. I need to make my voice louder so that I can add value to more people, right? And so I really believe that in doing this podcast, I'm walking in my purpose, right? I really believe that. And so what I want you to do is whatever you're inspired, I want you to, there's somebody listening out there right now, and I want you to talk to them. You can say whatever you want to say. It could be about whatever you want it to be, but whatever you're inspired to say to them that will add value to them right now as they're listening to this in this moment, I want you to share that with them, please.
Awesome. Well, if you're listening right now, I'm going to just invite you to take a deep breath. If you are not driving, then I would invite you to close your eyes as well. Just take a deep breath in and release that slowly. And just recognize that you are a full being. Like, feel your arms, feel your fingers. It may seem weird to you if you've not done this before, but really recognize that you are here, that you are in this moment, and that you get to be here. What a blessing that is, right? Like, someone didn't make it to today. My best friend died at 21, y'all. 21. Never got to see a day past that. Beautiful soul, energy for days, brilliant mind, on scholarship at university. The night she died, she was receiving an award for just being the exceptional person that she was. And I don't even think she got to make it to the stage to get it into her hands. But you were here. And now I just want to ask you, for what reason? You are a beautiful being that gets to exist in this space. And what are you going to do with that? I want to invite you to find a spiritual center, whatever that may be for you. For me, it's Christianity, it's Jesus Christ and his teachings and what I get to experience in God's love. But for you, that may be something else. But find your spiritual center. And after you found that, realize that all else comes from that. That you could have every goal in the world, that you could achieve everything you want. We've seen so many people do so well. I think about Kate Spade. I still buy her bags, even though she's moved on. I think about Robin Williams, and for as much as I love Will Smith, he will never be the same genie that Robin Williams was in those Aladdin movies. And yet, for all these people had, it was not enough. And ask yourself, am I chasing just things? And if I get all the things, then what? So find your spiritual center and let all else flow from that. Truly live in love and ask yourself what that means for you. For me, love is patient, love is kind, love is humble. Love never boasts. It doesn't remember right or wrongs. Love is courageous. Love never fails. I like to win, man, so I ain't into failing. So how can I live in love? How can I respond in love? How can I act in love? How can I pursue the goals that I've set out for myself from this spiritual center in love? Recognize that you are so much more than just this moment. That we undervalue what can happen in 10 years, but overestimate what we can do in one. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself that it is okay to be content with where you are, to lay out a plan for the future, and to take it step by step. Understanding that you must stay between fluid and flexible because it won't always go your way, but that all things are working together for the good, especially once you found that spiritual center. That's all I want to share with y'all. If you had your eyes closed, you can open them up. You can take another deep breath in and let it out. And I really hope that I added some value to you today as you listen to the Value Added Podcast. I just want to shout out my host, Ethan. I love watching him make his dreams come true. I love watching him grow and evolve and shift from place to place as he figures out what he's doing in his life. It's such an inspiration to the rest of us that we don't have to stay stuck. That every day that we're here, we get a chance to do and be more than we were before as we figure it out, because we're all on a journey together, just figuring it out.
Just figuring. Awesome, man. Anastarcia, where could the people find you? Drop everything. Like, if I need to hook up with you, where can I find you? Please let the people know. You could actually look right in that camera there and let them know.
Definitely. So I am at homeofstars.com. Years ago, I sat with a team, a great group of guys, and we came up with the name Home of Stars because I believe that each of us is a star in our own way. We each have a light that we ought to let shine in the world. And I wanted to give you a home to come back to. So I'm Home of Stars, and you can go to homeofstars.com. I've got some great stuff for you there in terms of my course offerings and what I'm doing next in terms of coaching or events. And then, of course, you can follow me day to day at Home of Stars on both Instagram and TikTok. I'm on Twitter too, and the tweets just come like once a quarter, so don't hold on to that one too tough. But you can find me there, and on Facebook, it's Anastarcia. Go ahead and like the page, and I just hope we can be in touch. I hope that you continue to just push and to thrive, knowing that you are already enough, and it's just a matter of you seeing that and then living that every day to pour that into someone else.
Incredible, incredible. All right, everybody. You heard it here. We just wrapped up this dynamic episode of the Value Added Podcast with our very, very special guest, Anastarcia Palacious. And I do hope that as you journey to becoming your best self, that you take some time, think about how you can not only just add value to yourself, but add value to those around you. Until next episode, I'm EQ. Peace.